juggling cats while riding the unicycle.
Juggling cats.
Sounds ridiculous, right? But guess what? That's exactly what texting while driving
Thanks
is
for
like.
tuning in to the Todd Allbaugh Show on Thursday.
Focus on one thing at a time.
You good?
Don't drive Dale's calling in.
Okay, I just didn't want
It
to.
was a butt dial.
Gotcha. Well, now that that's resolved, thanks for tuning in to the Todd Allbaugh Show on Thursday, February 13th. We're going to have Eve Galanter on today to talk about civics and other things. We have about 40 seconds till the show starts, so I'm not going to get too in-depth on that. You'll just have to stick around.
Live from the Civic Media World Headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, it's the Todd Allbaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Allbaugh.
Across Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Todd Allbaugh, along with Mr. Aaron Zommers, our producer and engineer on the board. It is 6 past the hour of 12 noon on this Thursday, February 13th, 2025, jumping a day ahead. It is a great day, though, on this 13th to be a Wisconsinite. Downtown Madison, sunny skies. It is bright out. Wear the old sunglasses today. Much of Wisconsin, particularly kind of that line as we were talking about yesterday from Green Bay over to La Crosse, south and east of that, heaviest snows. Our listeners down there in southeast Wisconsin, some places, Pertner, nearly 9 inches of snow. So the forecast was pretty on. Yeah, absolutely. And around here in Madison, I think around 3-ish, 3.5, maybe 4 some places. But then lesser amounts as you go north and west. But more snow coming on the way this weekend. I was listening to our friend Jay Matnair and Greg Bach on Matnair On Air this morning, which airs every day right before us. Always great to have their fantastic lead-in. They had one of the folks from the Birkenbeiner up there in beautiful Hayward on the show this morning. They are pleased as punch because, of course, last year we were up there and they did not have the snow nor the cold temperatures, and so they had to make a kind of a makeshift run up at the Birkenbeiner at the route around Cable. But now this year, the final leg of the race will be back downtown Hayward in Hayward, Wisconsin for the American Birkenbeiner.
Well, thank goodness.
Absolutely. Very excited. And it's sounding like, I hear now, there are rumors that I have to get the old Birkenbeiner jacket and sweater out. We may be going up to Hayward to do a little broadcasting from the Birkenbeiner next week.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. They're sprucing up, fluffing up the futon at the
Are they now? I think you're going to be doing that yourself.
At the Palatius WBZH studios up there.
No, I'm sure
we took furniture up there last year. I mean, there was
Is it still there?
There was some there, and then we built a little set. And I guess it's all still there.
Excellent.
It's
it was a very nice set that you built.
Thank you. I appreciate a little Olympiad type of set. So we're going up there. Chief Engineer Corey Hartman may be joining me as well. So you got the chief. What more do you want? So we'll be looking forward to that. Should be a good time had by all. Going to be a great time today. Really looking forward to this hour. An old friend of mine, longtime friend, Eve Galanter, is going to be here in hour number 1 in just a few minutes. She is a very accomplished individual. Among her many accomplishments, she is the founder of the Wisconsin Civics Games. It is a statewide competition for high school students, and it's a part of her work on the Wisconsin Association of Newspaper Foundation board. And she also happens to be where we first met was back in the day when we were both working in politics. She was running the Madison office for former U.S. Senator Herb Kohl, and I was working for my former boss, Scott Klug, in the U.S. House. We, at the time, on opposite sides of the political aisle, but always found ways to work together on behalf of Wisconsinites. We'll talk a little bit about that, but more importantly, she is here in her new role today because this is timely, as we say, timely indeed. Mike Lucas, of course, the great sports reporter, coined the phrase. And because one of the things we hear all the time is, why don't young people know more civics? And if they knew more civics, maybe things would end up differently at the ballot box. So here's an individual, an Eve Galanter, not just talking about it, not just complaining, doing something about it. And this is something, the Wisconsin Civics Games, that is not partisan. It applies equally to everyone. And if you have a high school student in your life, you know of one, you're going to want to listen in because there's still time for them to be part of this year's Wisconsin Civics Games. So Eve's going to be here. We're also going to take your calls. So this will be fantastic. It'll be a great discussion. Well, this is one of these hours that if you want to know why Todd got into radio, listen this hour.
Absolutely.
This is it. So looking forward to that. How are you, Mr. Sommers?
Doing pretty well. Stayed up late last night. One of my friends is starting a podcast, and I'm writing the music for it. And the publisher of the podcast is moving the release date sooner, so I had to stay up late and try and finish some stuff.
Wow, look at you. That's fantastic. Well, that's with you as a part of it, it can only be successful. So
we'll see.
I wish them well. I wish them well. Very good. As we said, roads are still being cleaned up in some areas, particularly in southeast Wisconsin. So be careful out there. Yeah, don't just think, well, it's all fine now and go back to driving normal speeds or closer together. No. Leave extra room today. So do that. So we got Eve Galanter in hour number 1 today, and then in hour number 2, we're going to do a little What's Worse again today. Looking forward to this one.
It's about things that are stinky.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. Things that are stinky. Go. I sound like Dick Clark in the $25,000 pyramid. These are things that are stinky. Things that are stinky. Coming up in hour number 2. All right, first of all, I thought before we bring Eve on, get to a couple of headlines here nationally and around the state of Wisconsin. This morning, vaccine skeptic Robert Kennedy Jr. has been confirmed as the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services out in Washington, D.C. And we talked about this with Trygve Olson, Senior Advisor on the Lincoln Project yesterday. Not so much about Kennedy specifically, but once again, we see a lack of thoughtfulness, any sort of political courage on the Republican side to stand up and say, look, there are a couple of lines here. The vote this morning was 52 to 48, largely along party lines, although Republican Senator Mitch McConnell of Kentucky once again joined with Democrats to oppose the nomination. McConnell has now voted against 3 of Trump's cabinet nominees, more than any other Republican senator. Look, I give Mitch McConnell a little bit of credit here. At least he's putting his name down on paper. And McConnell, I believe, was polio he had as a child. I saw the Leslie Stahl interview on 60 Minutes a week or two ago. These formative things in our lives, later in life, they dictate how we view things. So McConnell is certainly in favor of vaccines. And, he put his money where his mouth is today and voted against Kennedy. But at the end of the day, it wasn't a John McCain type of vote where it meant that Kennedy would not get confirmed. I wonder, I was going to say I don't want to second guess McConnell, but I am. I wonder if they really needed his vote if he would have had political courage to stick with that.
I don't think so, based on what we've seen. He came out against Trump after January 6th, 2021, and then has kind of capitulated since then. And I feel like him voting against RFK Jr., given that he had polio as a kid, as far as I'm aware, it means that instead of calling him spineless, I will say he has a toothpick for a spine.
Well, there you go.
That's my personal opinion.
The confirmation today, the vote that is, highlights the extent of Trump's influence over the Senate GOP majority as a slate of contentious nominees who face questions over whether they could be confirmed, including Kennedy, Pete Hegseth as defense secretary, and Tulsi Gabbard as director of national intelligence have now all been approved by Senate Republicans for top administration posts. At some point, we need to see a true checks and balances here, whether it's in the United States Senate whether it's in the court system. We've seen a little bit in lower courts. I believe that eventually some of these bigger things are going to get to the U.S. Supreme Court, and then we'll see if Trump adheres to it. We'll see if Trump adheres to the rule of law. Anyway, RFK Jr. in as Department of Health and Human Services Secretary. This is great news, by the way, for people in Wisconsin who are sick and tired during the spring, summer, and fall of driving around and seeing dead deer everywhere. Because Secretary Kennedy now, he'll be going around picking that up for dinner.
You're right, he will.
So,
And then he'll just leave it in parks with bikes.
Right. If you have not heard before, Kennedy is famous. These are his own words. He's bragged about this recently on podcasts, like I think with Roseanne Barr and other places, where he likes to go around and pick up roadkill and then put it in his freezer. It's more than just a little bit odd in my estimation. So there you go. Also this morning, as far as national news headlines, President Donald Trump said he has talked with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Pardon me, there's Vladimir Putin of Russia, saying that the two of them, Trump and Putin, are working on ending the Ukrainian war. Left out of said negotiations, the actual president of Ukraine, Vladimir Zelensky. He says that Ukraine will not accept any peace deal without his involvement. And good for him.
Yeah, why would they?
And yeah. Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense, yesterday saying that he claims to speak on behalf of the United States, contrary to what the the Biden administration and the last Congress said, which is that they would stand up for Ukraine, that they would not allow any sovereign territory taken over by Russia to fall into Russian hands. Hegseth walking that back and goes on to say that he would not support, the United States would not support Ukraine being a member of the United Nations. That is not only dangerous for Europe, as we've talked about in this program with Trygve Olsen, who has actually worked in Eastern Europe for democracy. It puts the United States at more risk. Again, the United States, part of NATO, an attack on one is an attack on all. So if Putin continues his march into Europe, that is only going to make it more difficult, more dangerous for Americans and American troops. Tony, watching on YouTube, says you need both sides to agree on a peace deal, right? Trump is the master deal maker. How did he miss that? Right. Well, we find out later, of course, that he did not actually write The Art of the Deal. His book was a ghostwriter. Let's go quickly to the phone lines, 855-752-4842. Mark in Perdisac. Mark, you got 1 minute. It's all yours. What say you?
Yeah, I certainly think you meant NATO rather than, because I think Ukraine's probably already a member of the United Nations, but he doesn't want.
Yes,
oh,
NATO.
yes. Sorry. Yes. Thank you.
Part of NATO.
Thank you for catching me.
But for Robert Kennedy Jr., I'm just kind of waiting with kind of horror in my. What I'm thinking is what happens when bird flu hits in a few months here, that, like COVID did. Because I saw that hit and what happened there. And for each of these people that voted for, and the other horrors, that, our national security threatened by Tulsi Gabbard and the other, horrible of Trump's appointees, that when this stuff hits the fan, what are people going to say? Because when bird flu hits, it could easily take out 1 million people, just like COVID did, and we're going to be completely unprepared with Kennedy.
Appreciate the call, Mark. Up against the clock. Mark's right, particularly for our dairy herds in the state of Wisconsin. Eve Galanter is next, talking civics and students. Come on back on the Civic Media Radio Network.
A new choice. Madison's Real News and Great Conversation. 92.7 WMDX.
Still putting off that deep clean? Let HS Pristine Clean take it off your to-do list. With over 20 years of meticulous cleaning experience, they make your home sparkle without the hassle. Call 920-932-0000 today. Why wait?
Blind Shot Social Club, a perfect blend of cool, casual dining, indoor golf with space for events, craft cocktails, and non-alcoholic drinks too. A hidden gem on Madison's East Side. Blind Shot Social Club, open to everyone. BlindShotSocialClub.com.
Here are some tips from Dane County Humane Society to keep dogs safe in frigid temperatures. Keep walks short. The lower the temperature, the shorter the time spent outdoors. Remember, paw pads are skin, and they can freeze. Booties can keep a dog's paws from getting cold too quickly. Consider a pup sweater or coat, and find indoor activities to help them burn off energy.
Fantastic.
Give them mental stimulation like puzzle toys, Kongs with treats inside, hide treats around a room, or train them on a new trick.
Well,
For more, visit giveshelter.org.
It's not like we have thousands of people watching.
And at some point, can we have a digital thing of this
Yeah.
to put on our website?
Yep, we'll work with Aaron. We'll get you that. You just want to sit there, please. We'll have you put the headphones
should I
on. You can put it over there. That's fine.
So I don't spill it?
Yeah, it's fine. And let's start with it low, and then you can tell me if you want the headset volume higher or lower.
I totally can't have both my glasses on my head and the headset.
Oh, well, you should. I got mine.
But you put them on your eyes.
Oh,
I just want them on my head.
that's hilarious. I love that.
Thank you.
All right. How's the volume? Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Test 1 2. Is that too low? Oh no, you gotta turn it around like. There you
Did I do it wrong?
go. Yeah, there you go. Testing 1 2. You want higher, lower, higher,
Lower,
lower.
lower.
Pursuing truth wherever it may lead and having fun doing it. Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Networks. It is 21 minutes now past the hour of 12 noon all across the state of Wisconsin, from Lake Michigan to Lake Superior, Green Bay to the Mississippi River, and all points in between. Glad to have you along on this Thursday, February 13th, 2025. As we said, 21 now past 12. Mr. Zommer's on the board. Going to take some more phone calls in a minute. I said at the top of the show, if you want to know why I got into radio as a high school kid, went to college for it, then had a long stint in politics and now honored to be back into it, this hour will tell you. Because this, I think, is the best example of what radio, community, state-focused radio does really well, is bring interesting guests in with issues that affect and connect with Wisconsinites all across the state. So honored to have someone that I've known a long time. She is the former director of the Wisconsin State Office here in Madison for former U.S. Senator Herb Kohl. She also is the current founder of the Wisconsin Civics Games, a statewide competition for high school students, as part of her work with the Wisconsin Newspapers Association Foundation Board. Eve Galanter is here in the studio in downtown Madison. Eve, thanks for coming on.
Hey, and the sun is shining.
Right?
Perfect.
It really is. We'll have you get just a little bit closer to the mic. I tell guests we kind of have to eat the mic, so to speak. So there you go.
There we go.
See, that's fantastic.
All right.
Look at
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm going to tell a little story, if you don't mind, just to start with.
Does it have a happy ending?
Of course it has a happy ending.
Okay.
So Eve and I have known each other quite a few years. And when we first met, we were on the opposite political aisle, we'll say. Eve was the director of Senator Kohl's office here in Madison. I was working for, at the time, Congressman Scott Klug here in the 2nd District, moderate Republican. We don't have those anymore, but he actually was. And although our bosses were on different sides of the aisle, one of the things that I always admired, and Eve, you were known for in the Wisconsin congressional delegation, is your commitment to the constituents. And although our bosses at times were on the opposite ways of voting in Congress, both our bosses and our staffs worked together when it came for things like passports, when it came for Social Security payments. And I so appreciate that about you. And I handled a lot of immigration issues at the time for Congressman Klug, and you handled a lot of immigration for Senator Kohl. And I'll never forget, we were at a meeting at the immigration office in Milwaukee. The director's name at the time was Roger Lindo. And he stood up and he said, we could do a lot more, but we need funding. And we don't have the funding in Congress for these positions. And Eve stood up and she said, I don't care that we're not all from the same party or not. We all have to go back to our bosses and tell them this to help the people of Wisconsin. And we did, and our two bosses stood up. Unfortunately, leadership things didn't quite work out to get that funding, but I'll never forget that. And that, to me, is the epitome of what a public servant should be. And a lot of people in Wisconsin don't know that about you, Eve, and I think they need to.
Wow. Oh, it did have a sort of happy ending. We got to meet each other and work together, and it meets one of my two goals, which is civic engagement and civil engagement. And that's what we were exemplifying at that time.
Yeah, well said, and it's just great to kind of reconnect here. Tell folks, start telling. We have a break here at the bottom of the hour. We're going to have Eve for the whole rest of the hour, and your chance to call in, ask questions as well. But Eve, tell us a little bit about this latest project. You founded the Wisconsin Civics Games, this statewide competition for high school students. Tell us how you came to help found this organization.
Well, on a yellowed piece of paper that only Todd can see here from 2016, and there was a headline, all 3 school board incumbents running unopposed.
Yeah.
That's a terrible headline. That means there will be no community conversation. Now, that was 9 years ago, but it struck me as someone very committed to public service, having served on the Madison City Council for about 8 years, leaving to go to work for Senator Cole, the whole concept of public service. But how could we have a conversation about what's going on our school boards that has to do with our kids, our teachers, if there's no opposition, if there are no candidates running to oppose those who were on the school board already at that time, and maybe they were doing a fabulous job, and that's why nobody wanted to run against them, or maybe there was something about the commitment in terms of time and energy and what it's like to be a public servant, as you and I were. I was struck and then by that, and I went to the folks at the Wisconsin Counties Association and the League of Wisconsin Municipalities with whom I'd worked and said, is there something we can do about this? No, I'm not trying to find people to necessarily to run against your current county board or city council members, but we've got to have community conversations. And if people can't make that commitment, we all lose, I think, because we don't have any way to provide general input. And they said, well, it's a good idea. Get us a little more information. Let's talk about it. And I did. I stuck with it. A couple of years later, after talking with a lot of people about it, the State Journal, I do read the newspaper and listen to the radio all the time, published all of the folks who were running in Dane County for local elected office, school boards, county boards, town boards. In all of those communities, only 2 incumbents were challenged.
Wow.
All of those towns and villages and cities. And there were 8 seats without an incumbent and only 1 candidate.
Wow.
That was replicated just 2 years ago in the city of Monona. There was a municipal judge vacancy. Nobody chose to run.
That's just incredible, and I think in things have changed since when you and I worked for public service. The hyper, I'll call it hyper partisanship, and even now people who just run are subject to just very personal attacks, and we need to get more people involved. I think it's a great issue because, as you just pointed out, we have this issue. Doesn't matter whether you're in a rural town or village or whether you're in an urban downtown area being represented. We need more good folks to run. And in order for them to run, we have to engage our young people in what this means.
Right. And don't forget, these were not partisan races.
Correct.
These are all non-partisan, nominally, non-partisan races.
We'll come back with Eve Galanter, talk more about the Wisconsin Civics Games and how you can get your young person involved. Not going to want to miss it. Stay tuned for the Ag Market Update with Pam Yonke next, right here on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Real news and great conversation. 92.7 WMDX. Your news, conversations, and a whole lot of fun. It's all on your local Civic Media radio station or the Civic Media app.
Sure, let's do that. I love that. All right.
Driving around,
But
and you see
I will
that
now
needle
get to
close to
how
E,
we
the
ended
one
up
thing you're
with this.
thinking about
Yeah,
is
yep. Let's
where
get to
can I
that, and
fill
then
up for the cheapest?
what the
Well,
actual
currently the
competition
prices
is, how
have
people
been
can get
moving
involved, and we'll do some
and that
questions
makes it
and
harder
some
to
calls.
decide.
Yeah, that's
I'm
great.
Ben Jarbo,
We'll
the
come back. We'll
Midwest
have
Farm
about
Report,
15
and
minutes
John Heinberg,
until
a
the next
market
break,
advisor
and
with
then we
Total
have
Farm
another
Marketing
7
out of
minutes
West
at the
Bend,
end.
Great.
is here to explain what the
Want some more water?
prices are looking like
No, I'm
when
good.
it comes
Okay,
to
all right.
gas and energy, and
It is
why
nice
they're
to be
looking
so
like
warm,
that.
but I am wearing
Yeah,
5
you mean
layers.
obviously in the crude oil market and the energy
have my
market,
sweater on
the
as well.
prospects of
Yeah.
supplies
Listen,
coming
I love the
because
view.
of
Just sit
the
here.
It
open
is.
up the
It is
drilling
wonderful.
mentality that the Trump administration is going to have is kind of weighed on prices
Oh,
after
this is so fun.
a
I'm
pretty
so
good
happy
run
that
to start the
you're
year.
able to do
I think
this.
we're just trying to find ourselves a little bit of an
'Cause I just-
equilibrium until
these
we
are the
get
types of
until we get a
things
little better
that
direction in
our
terms of where
audience
those
talks
policies
about
are going to
all
be.
the time.
But again,
Why
a
aren't
lot of
people more
markets feel that
civilly
the problem's just
aware or civics
volatility
aware?
right now that we haven't seen for a while,
And how
as
can
we're
we
just
get
trying to
involved? How
figure
can we
out
do
what the new
something?
path's gonna
You know,
be.
a lot of people obviously after November are like, I feel helpless. And we've been trying to talk and say, you know what? Individually, we can't just take on what's happening in Washington, but we have power within our communities to get involved,
Right.
organize, and elect people locally. So I think that's great.
Yeah, I love that you're giving me this opportunity to do this. I'd love to do it often, actually,
Let's do
to
it.
sort of
Yeah.
keep people apprised of what's going on. The winner, some of the winners have come from towns I didn't even know about in Wisconsin. Do you know where Denmark is?
I think I know ish. Let's check my Wisconsin geography. I believe Denmark is north of Pewaukee, south of Fond du Lac, and
so.
east of Beaver Dam.
Yeah, it's not far. It's not far from Manitowoc. Well, I know where that is.
More or less, but not
Right.
really. It's southeast-ish.
Right. Last year's winning team came from Denmark, Wisconsin.
That's great.
The first year it was Platteville. It was, it's been Indian Trail Academy.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But it's been a good geography lesson for me. I'm embarrassed. I've lived in the state for
Long time.
47-ish years. Yeah.
No, that's part of the thing. We did 5 weeks last year, 6 weeks on the road.
Yeah. You
With the
did
show.
a little discovery.
And you drive through somewhere, you stop at a burger, and I didn't know this was here. Or when I worked for Dale, or more so Dale and Scott, and then when I ran for assembly in Dwayne Johnson's old district along the Wisconsin River or Mississippi River, and you came into these little burgs like you heard of, but you never really spent time there. And you're like, this is the best part about campaigning, because you learn about your state and your friends and neighbors.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's just great.
Sunny and cold today, with high temperatures only tapping the mid-teens and feisty winds out of the northwest, slapping wind chills on top of that, making us really feel about
Are you on
15 degrees
Facebook?
cooler.
Mm-hmm.
And overnight,
I don't know
it's
why I
gonna be
didn't come
feeling
by.
anywhere from
We put it
15
on
to 20 below.
Twitter and or
Then,
X and
on
Facebook,
Valentine's,
the
snowstorm
promo and
starts
stuff
in the
for it.
afternoon.
But
Today,
yeah,
relative
but I
pretty
did
low.
the.
Right now,
I didn't see it.
12 degrees.
Well, I'm like I tried to add your at Eve Galanter to tag you or whatever they call it, and it wouldn't come up. But I'm like, I'm pretty sure I've seen. I think maybe we were Facebook friends, but it didn't come up.
Okay.
So I don't know.
If we're not, let me know.
Yeah,
I did turn my phone off.
but it's out there in the World Wide Web universe.
You don't want to miss our President's Day sale. Wake up, sleep better. Furlough.
This is Chad Spade.
All right.
Design Build. We're proud to employ some of the best carpenters in
We'll be back in a little over 30 seconds.
Thank you.
Do you know about the USA? Do you know about the government? Can you tell me about the Constitution? Hey, learn about the USA.
Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. 34 minutes now past the hour of 12 noon on Thursday, February 13th, 2025. Mr. Zommers, that's an oldie but a goodie. Is that part of Schoolhouse Rock?
Yeah, I couldn't think of anything better to fit the topic than
Right.
Schoolhouse Rock.
No, well done. Well done. Welcome back to the show, Todd Allbaugh, Aaron Zommers. We are joined this hour by Eve Galanter. She is the founder of the Wisconsin Civics Games, a statewide competition for high school students. As part of her work on the Wisconsin Newspaper Association Foundation Board, she is also the past Wisconsin-Madison director for the office of U.S. Senator Herb Kohl, and that's where she and I met when she was working for Senator Kohl. I was working for Congressman Scott Klug. Another era politically in a lot of ways, right?
And in terms of technology, just
Right.
think, barely being able to communicate by
Right.
computer, by
That's so true. That's what so Klug left office in 07, I guess, or 08. 09, I guess that's what January 09, and we had just got Netscape like the year and a half before, and we had one computer in the Madison office where you could get on the internet.
Right.
But otherwise, we'd get actual, letters on paper from constituents, and you would write letters, and you would send it to the agencies in D.C., and then occasionally you'd pick up the phone and call.
Right. And occasionally when constituents would call us,
Right.
and we were working late, I was working late, you were, I'm sure, too. And I picked up the phone, and the person said, "Oh, you're not an answering machine?" And I said, "No." She said, "Look, I'm really just calling to vent." I said, "Tell you what, I'm going to hang up. You call back. I won't pick up, and you just vent for as long as you want." And that was the extent of our telecom.
Right.
That's where we were.
Yeah.
But all those years, more recently, as I was engaging on this journey to what became the Civics Games, I watched on television.
Let me pull this out just a little bit.
Oh, and Justice Gorsuch and Justice Sotomayor were on some CBS television news program. And Justice Gorsuch disclosed that, based on a recent survey he had seen, that 10% of the public believed that TV's Judge Judy served with him on the U.S. Supreme Court. He said, "What is this about our republic?
Mm-hmm.
What is it about our democracy that we have so many people who are not informed?" When we got to the Civics Games, I actually made a question out of that, which was, describe the process by which Judge Judy became a member of the U.S. Supreme Court or the Wisconsin Supreme Court.
Wow.
And the kids could answer it.
Interesting.
They understood. They knew that Judge Judy, first of all, I don't know if they knew who Judge Judy was, but they did understand that there was a different process by which someone became a member of the Supreme Court, either the U.S. or the state Supreme Court.
Absolutely fascinating. Eve, before the break there, you broke down and explained how you came to this. There were a lot of open seats across from town boards to assembly and other things all across Wisconsin, urban, rural areas. And either people went unchallenged, candidates went unchallenged, or completely vacant. And you thought we have to do something about this. So how did that lead then to this creation of the Wisconsin Civics Games in association with the Wisconsin Newspaper Association Foundation Board?
I thought, let's give up on adults for a moment. Let's go a little further back. Let's talk to our students, our kids, our grandkids, our neighbors' kids, and say, we want you to know more about how government works. We want you to even appreciate how it works and think about the possibility of public service in your future. And I began to think about something similar to the old Civics Bowl that used to be on television where kids would compete. So I came up with let's have Wisconsin Civics Bowl. And the whole basis so predicated on getting our kids to share what they know, and maybe they could teach their parents something about how government worked. So I showed this idea to my older my oldest grandkid at the time, and she liked the idea. And she said, but I think you should call it the Civics Games. And I said, the games? She said, like you and I just watched the Hunger Games. And I said, Jazz, they were trying to kill each other. And she said, yeah, but the kids will like it better if you call it the games instead of the bowl. And if the kids like it, the teachers will like it. And so in 2019, I went to the Wisconsin Newspaper Association Foundation Board, described what I wanted to do, and asked them if they would be willing to sponsor it.
Wow.
And I came away from that board meeting, or came to that board meeting thinking they're going to say, all right, we'll think about it, we'll get back to you. And instead they said, let's do it.
Great.
And beginning in 2019, the whole concept of high school students competing, but what do you have to do in order to do that? Well, you got to reach out to all the social studies teachers. You've got to think about the format. And so I thought about regional games. All the high schools know all about the WIAA. Those are good regions. And we sent out the information about a team of up to 4 students, no cost to enter. We would have regional games. We would hold them at UW campuses, give each of them a chance to know about each other. And people registered. They liked the idea, but they didn't fall neatly into those little regions. So I did my own gerrymandering and created new regions. We no longer call them regional games. We call them playoffs for the games, where the top teams each year of the then regionals, now playoffs, come to the capital, the state capital, for the finals. But all of this meant somebody had to write about 100 questions, varying in difficulty, moving up, from the very beginning to the playoffs to the finals. And that did fall on me. I was the volunteer. I said, let's do it. I'm all in.
That's awesome. We're talking to Eve Galanter, founder of the Wisconsin Civics Games, part of the statewide competition for high school students in Wisconsin, as part of the Wisconsin Newspapers Association Foundation Board. If you'd like to call in with a question for Eve, 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. You can also text us on the Civic Media app. You can download it for free at your Apple and Android store and just text it in on the line there. Eve, I want to make sure we get this in. How can people get involved and enter a team? And is it too late for this year's competition?
It's not too late. Go to wisconsincivicsgames.com.
Easy.
And very easy. It says register here. It just requires that we have the names of the students who will be participating, and to have an advisor, a teacher, a counselor, a parent. Teams could be not just high school, but it could be homeschooled. As long as there is an advisor linked to the team. A team can be up to 4 students. We had 2 students for one team, and they came in first.
Wow, good for
so
them.
it's really
And they were
great.
they're from Denmark, you said?
Well, Denmark was last
Wisconsin,
year's,
not the country.
Denmark.
Because Denmark's been in the news a lot lately.
Yeah. No, Denmark, and these students are not attempting to take over Greenland High School, but they are in Denmark, Wisconsin.
Very good.
This is really all nonpartisan. It's not skewed in any way. We have as judges people from all around the state. We have volunteers who are willing to be judges. The deadline for this year is March 1.
Okay, March 1.
March 1. And the actual playoffs will be on April 9 and 10. And they will be virtual. But I wanted to talk, too, about what we've seen happen lately and what's the basis for this lack of engagement
Sure.
or lack of knowledge.
Yeah, go ahead.
The Constitution Day Civics Survey done by the Annenberg Public Policy Center, a renowned organization. Okay. In 2022, 47% was the percentage of Americans that can name all three branches of government.
Wow.
Now, you say wow.
Yeah.
In 2023, it was 34%.
Seriously?
Wow.
Seriously. And the percentage of Americans that cannot name any of the three branches of government was 25%.
That's just sad.
In
quite frankly.
2023, it went down to 16%. I don't know what accounts for this dramatic change and why more people know less.
Eve, do you think, with all your experience over the years in government and community across Wisconsin, do you think that part of it is just the frustration with the news cycle and Wisconsinites feel, well, I can't do anything about it. I'm just going to tune it off and tune it out and not pay attention, and they choose not to. But you and I both know that's to the detriment, particularly with our local community.
And when people are running for office and say, here's what I'm going to do, the voter needs to know, can that person do that?
Mm-hmm.
Now, sometimes it happens that those who get into office do more than we thought they could, but we don't know enough. And the state legislature here in Wisconsin, interested in having kids be more knowledgeable, did mandate that before you can graduate, you must pass the same test as an immigrant would have to take and pass by, I believe it's getting 60% right on that test. For high school students, you can begin taking it and take it until you pass, but there is no mandate for civics education in the schools. And I know there's a lot of debate about that in the legislature right now.
Isn't it fascinating? Again, we've talked, I know, offline about this or in person, but one of the great privileges to me while working for former Congressman Klug, and I would think former Senator Cole, going to these naturalization ceremonies and seeing people who worked their tails off and learned about our country. And many times those new Americans know more about our civics than those of us who were born here.
It is a shame. And part of the problem I know stems from the fact that our teachers in the high schools and in the middle schools throughout the education system have so much to do in the confines.
Many mandates.
So many mandates.
Right, yeah.
Do we really want to require again? But can it be a new mandate?
Right.
But without that, what are we going to do in the future for our democracy?
Talking with Eve Glanter, the founder of the Wisconsin Civics Games. You can find out more about those at wisconsincivicgames.com. Mark in Prairie du Sac has texted in, said a few years ago, I ran across a hardcover school book from the late 1940s titled Wisconsin Civics. If memory serves, it was actually published in Wisconsin. Wow. I mean, there was
Mark, I'm going to go find that.
But I remember my grandparents and even my parents talking about having civics classes. I graduated in 1988. I had social studies classes. I quote one of my social studies teachers, Kel Lewis, all the time on this show, but I don't ever remember having a civics proper class.
Correct.
So it's
and I went to school a little bit before you, and I remember we had civics as a part of my social studies in 5th grade, and our teacher took an 8.5 by 11 sheet, cut it into 4 pieces, and said, you write your answers succinctly on this square of paper.
That's fantastic. Eve Glanter, founder of the Wisconsin Civics Games. We'll come back and quiz your knowledge, my knowledge of civics on the other side. It's the Todd Allbaugh Show for a Thursday on the Civics Media Radio Network. Oh, this is so good, Eve. This is great info. It is fun. I did not. I mean, those Those facts are just astounding.
That's crazy.
I know, right?
I
Especially
don't know
because
about the 2024. I'm waiting to see what those numbers look like when they're released.
I graduated in 2017 from high school, and I had to take a civics class.
Did you really?
Yes.
Where was this?
This was at Lincoln High School in Manitowoc.
Okay. Good for them.
We had the same thing where we had to take the
Immigration.
Yeah, the immigration test and pass it with 60% or whatever. And some people complained, and I'm like, dude, if you paid any attention in class, you can easily get 60%.
Well, yeah, I mean, imagine only requiring 60% pass rate in
anything else?
English,
Right.
in algebra, in biology.
Right, exactly.
You'd fail, fail, fail.
Wow. That's just, I mean, it's upsetting, but it's also very important for people to hear that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Ending at noon the day before Election Day. The full Senate passed SB 10, ending use of school-issued student identification as ID for voting.
I have the letter that Justice Sotomayor wrote in congratulating the kids. At some point, we can show that next time when we do the finals.
Voters were ineligible. A federal appeals court may revisit it. We've linked the Voting Rights Lab tracker at AmericanDemocracyMinute.org. I'm Brian Beal.
I noticed there's a spot on the website for sponsors. We should
absolutely be.
We should bring that
sponsored,
up. Yeah.
We'll pass that on to people. Civic Media should be sponsoring Civics games, right?
You think? Wisconsin Eye does.
They do.
Oh,
broadcast it live for us as well.
That's awesome. Here we go. Wherever it may lead and having fun doing it. Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. It is now 9 minutes before the hour of 1 o'clock. At the top of the hour, ABC and CBS News, depending upon which station you're listening to across all 11 Civic Media stations in the state of Wisconsin. And then a little sports and weather update. We'll be back in hour 2 then with another edition of What's Worse? Things that are stinky is the subject of the lesser important questions of the day. Right now, we are talking about the more important questions, such as civics, with our guest this hour, Eve Galanter, former Wisconsin director for the office of U.S. Senator Herb Kohl here in Madison. More recently, among her many accomplishments, the founder of the Wisconsin Civics Games, a statewide competition for high school students, as part of her work on the Wisconsin Newspapers Association Foundation Board. And this is fantastic. You could go to WisconsinCivicsGames.com, WisconsinCivicsGames.com. The state finals are May 2nd. The playoff round is April 9th and 10th. Your young person, is it only in high school age, Eve?
Only high school for this element of it. Next spring, I'll come on and talk about the editorial writing and cartoon contest.
All right. So for this, it's high school students only, and it could be a public high school, a private high school, a homeschooling situation. You have to have an adult who is an advisor. The deadline to enter your team, up to 4 individuals, is coming up on March 1st. So go to Wisconsin Civics with an S, WisconsinCivicsGames.com to enter on there. It's very, very simple. And Eve Galanter, our guest, you said that the kids get to be on television courtesy of Wisconsin Eye.
Wisconsin Eye, it's broadcast so that their classmates back in Rice Lake or Platteville or Denmark get to watch them live. Their parents. We actually had a visiting student from Germany.
Oh, wow.
Who was on a team from with her high school, and her parents in Germany got to watch her on Wisconsin Eye in the finals of the Wisconsin Civics Games. Now, you just had your lead-in music was all about freedom.
Yes, George
Okay,
Michael.
I've got a question for you.
Give it to me.
You or anyone listening, What are the 5 freedoms identified in the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution?
Wow.
You have 10 seconds.
Good Lord. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to peaceably assemble, freedom organizing, of demonstration. I don't know. Nicely done the
Thank
buzzer.
you.
Nicely done, Zombers. How many did I get?
Well, you repeated one,
Okay.
but said it differently.
All right.
So you have the press,
Oh, the
freedom
press.
of religion, freedom of speech, right to petition,
Petition, that's right.
and the right to assemble.
Right to assemble. All right.
And
yeah. I didn't say it right. But
during the games, you would have a buzzer in front of you, just like, and you would buzz in. And if
like
you,
Jeopardy or something.
like,
yeah.
and you would be given up to 10 seconds. So you had to know before you buzz in. If you buzz in and you're sitting there like, or if you buzz in too soon, because perhaps the question had more than one element to it, it would be, name this and then and you wouldn't know and then you would get it wrong, and then it would be repeated in full for the opposing team.
Wow. All right, give me another one.
Okay.
Here we go. Quizzing Todd for the Wisconsin Civics Games. You can register your team at wisconsincivicsgames.com.
Okay. In 1982, Wisconsin was the first state to outlaw what type of discrimination?
It was signed into law by former Governor Lee Sherman Dreyfus to outlaw discrimination based on sexual origin.
Fix that last word.
Sexual orientation?
Thank you.
Sorry. Yes.
1 point.
A hitherto unknown fact. I mean, again, just how times have changed, right?
Yeah.
This time, the Republican, Lee Sherman Dreyfus, signed it into law. It was a Democratic legislature who passed it. All right. Dave Clarenbach was a big part of that, but go ahead.
Right. I'll try one more.
All right.
Maybe one of your listeners knows this. In Wisconsin, the governor has the exclusive power to grant pardons. Name 3 of the rights that are restored as a result of a gubernatorial pardon.
Right to have a firearm to hunt, right to vote, and right to, boy, I don't know the third one. Where's my other thing?
Right to own a gun, right to vote, right to serve on a jury, right to hold public office, and the right to hold a professional license.
Oh, I didn't know
I would
that.
not have gotten
The
any of
professional
those.
license, yeah. Interesting.
Professional license, which means employment opportunities.
But see, this is what's so great about this, Eve, is that this reminds us of the rights. And this doesn't matter who you voted for in November. All Wisconsinites have these rights. And for those young people or any of us who are going to run for office, we should know this. I should know this better, so that if we know our rights regardless, I think that is a unifying thing. It is nonpartisan. And this is such a great program. About a minute left, or under a minute here. Anything in the last 30 seconds I didn't ask you want to make sure people know?
I want to make sure that people understand that it's so important that our kids know so much more than too many of the adults who are able to vote. And that for many of the high school students, by the way, each member of the winning team gets a $2,000 scholarship to a Wisconsin college or university.
Wow.
Put that in your pocket, too.
$2,000 if you win this. You can enter at wisconsincivicsgames.com. Eve Glanter, thank you so very much. We'll have you back soon.
Thank you.
Come on back. Hour number 2 on the Civic Media Radio Network. That was amazing. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Appreciate you so much. Wow, it was. May I keep this?
Harry Dunn to talk about January 6th. Rational Revolution with Mark Becker, Saturdays at 2, Sundays at 1 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app.
You never know.
The John and Gordy Show.
Hey, let's go to the phones. Dick is
All right.
on the line. You can call us too, 608-879-TALK. Good morning, Dick. What do you got for us this morning?
Well, to the Gaza thing, I mean, his philosophy is this. What's mine is mine, and what's yours is mine, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's as simple as that.
That's right.
There's no sovereign nation left in this planet.
That's right.
Weekday mornings 6 till 8 on 92.7 WMDX and the Civic Media app. Enjoying this local program? Find the complete Civic Media lineup at civicmedia.us or the Civic Media app. This is 92.7 WMDX Columbus, Madison's home for real news and great conversation. A Civic Media station.
ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. More than 24 current and former USAID employees and contractors have filed suit against Elon Musk, accusing the billionaire and head of the Government Efficiency Office of engaging in a predictable and reckless slash-and-burn pattern that violates the Constitution. The Senate, meantime, has confirmed Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as Health and Human Services Secretary.
The vote to confirm Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was nearly along party lines. For the third time now, Kentucky Republican Mitch McConnell joined with Democrats to oppose one of President Trump's second-term appointments. McConnell, who turns 83 next week, survived polio in his youth and has expressed grave concerns about RFK Jr.'s views on vaccines. As the full Senate was voting on Kennedy's nomination, the Judiciary Committee voted along party lines to favorably report on Kash Patel's bid to be FBI director.
ABC's Stephen Portnoy. Severe storms in Southern California bringing the threat of flooding for scorched areas of L.A. County due to last month's wildfires. This is ABC News.
This is your local Civic Media radio station. Want to hear even more? Anytime? Find all of it at civicmedia.us.
For 92.7 WMDX News, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. Madison has declared a snow emergency. That means alternate parking rules are in effect for the central part of the city. And under city ordinance, you have to clear snow off your portion of the sidewalk by 24 hours after the snow stops. So in theory, that's tonight and into the overnight hours. And you've got extra motivation to clear yesterday's snow. That's because more is headed our way. Here's meteorologist Brittany Merlot.
Mother Nature is showing her love and bringing heavy snow to the state for Valentine's Day. It'll start tomorrow in the afternoon and ramps up into the evening. Accumulations could reach up to 1/2 foot in some areas, and up to a foot is possible through Saturday in some spots. Right now, it's targeting southern parts of the state. So now is the time to gather supplies in case you need to stay home for several days without power. See if neighbors need a hand, if they have enough groceries and pet food, and I'd seriously reconsider going out on a date. But if you do, have an emergency kit in your car. Things like kitty litter for traction, a shovel, extra hat and gloves, hand warmers, blanket, flashlight, and battery banks are perfect. And as always, drive slow and don't be in a rush.
Meanwhile, more developments in the Act 10 lawsuit. Republicans asked the Supreme Court to rule on the lawsuit that challenges the controversial law. So far, a Dane County judge has ruled it's unconstitutional because it treats some public workers differently than others. Long story short, during her campaign, liberal Justice Janet Protasewicz agreed and said the law may be unconstitutional. Based on those comments, Republicans said she should recuse herself from the case. Now she's officially decided that she won't. Conservative Justice Brian Hagedorn has removed himself from the case if they hear it. He was working for then-Governor Scott Walker and personally helped craft the law. Meanwhile, none of that really matters for now. The court has decided not to hear the case. That means lower appeals courts would have to rule before it makes its way back up to them. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. This is 92.7 WMDX News.
The Bucks beat the Timberwolves. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. Despite missing Giannis and Damian Lillard, the Bucks beat the Timberwolves in Minnesota, 103-101. Doc Rivers pleased with the new players who stepped in, like Kyle Kuzma and Gary Trent.
That was
and the
very cool.
performance by Kevin Porter Jr.
His guts, he's calm. Kuz, I thought, had some great plays downhill. Gary Trent.
Oh, we have a comment I forgot to read earlier. It says, Eve Galanter would have been such a fair and honest Wisconsin Supreme Court justice.
Yes, she would have been.
Also, earlier when you were talking about Hayward, Jeff Perry said, fluffing up the futons? Is that code?
Right. That's good.
And Tony says, such a cool southern Wisconsin city that Hayward is. Sure, when you live in Ashland, everything is southern Wisconsin.
One-year, $1 million deal had been with the Tampa Bay Rays. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
Local radio for you and your community. It's Civic Media's mission with stations across Wisconsin. Find your favorites at civicmedia.us.
Sunny and cold today, with high temperatures only tapping the mid-teens and feisty winds out of the northwest. Slapping wind chills on top of that, making us really feel about 15 degrees cooler. And overnight, it's going to be feeling anywhere from 15 to 20 below. Then, a Valentine's Day snowstorm starts in the afternoon. I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot. Currently, it's 14.
Imagine home. The smell of coffee, the sound of a lawnmower, the sun's warmth on your face. Free to be yourself. Surrounded by love that helps you grow. This is a place to call home. That's an American dream we all deserve. But in 50% of U.S. states, you could legally be denied housing if you are LGBTQ+. Get the facts and hear real stories at lovehasnolabels.com. Brought to you by Love Has No Labels and the Ad Council.
The John and Gordy Show.
Go back to an earlier era before the right dominated the national storytelling. You go back to somebody like Frank Capra. He was masterful at telling that story about the little guy, that heroic figure who had nothing but worked hard, looked out for other people, cared about family, and made a better life. And that kind of storytelling has vanished.
Weekday mornings 6 till 8 on 92.7.
Live from the Civic Media World Headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, it's the Todd Allbaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Allbaugh.
Across Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Todd Allbaugh, along with Mr. Aaron Zommers on the board, our fantastic producer and engineer. It is 6 past the hour of 1 o'clock on this Thursday, February 13th, 2025. Welcome into hour number 2 of the big program. It is a great day to be a Wisconsinite here in downtown Madison, sunny skies. A little cleanup around try that again, Todd. Around a lot of the state, Madison and places southeast, several inches of snow. Our great road crews are getting that cleaned up. We appreciate that. And a shout out to all of them for doing yeoman's work across the state of Wisconsin. Going to get cleaned up and then more snow, according to Brittany Merlot and our meteorological team coming in for this weekend. So tomorrow night into Saturday. So if you have travel plans, might want to kind of adjust it. Looks like later on Friday into Saturday is going to be the worst of it. So,
and if you're able to, be a good neighbor. Shovel your neighbor's sidewalk or driveway.
Right, absolutely. Do that. Help out when and where you can. Many thanks to Eve Galanter for being here in hour number 1, the founder of the Wisconsin Civics Games, a statewide competition for high school students. How about that, Mr. Zommers? There's someone who sees a problem of people not running for office, not being involved, and says, hey, I'm going to go out and do this in a nonpartisan way, starts the Wisconsin Civics Games for high school kids, and you can win. Your team enters. The winner gets a $2,000 scholarship. How about that?
Yeah, that's amazing. That sounds super cool. I have 3 things on that.
All
First of all, I might have to volunteer and see what I can help out with, because that seems like a really cool program. Second of all, Eve Galanter seems like somebody I would love to just sit and listen to for hours, because she knows so much about things that I don't know anything about. Like, I could really learn a lot, and she's a fun person to listen to talk.
Yeah, no, she's fantastic and just a very, very knowledgeable individual and someone who I've learned a lot from over the years. And again, even when we were on opposite sides of the political fence, we always worked together on behalf of Wisconsinites. And it's an example how you don't always have to agree to get along. And more recently, we tend to vote alike, but that's beside the point, especially for this. This is something, doesn't matter how you voted or who you voted for. These Wisconsin Civics Games can teach our young people something and also get a scholarship and have some fun.
And I really liked what she said right off the top, that we need more civics discussion and we need more civil discussion.
Yes, absolutely right. 9 past the hour of 1 o'clock. Welcome back in. As we said, great to have you around. Tomorrow on the show, in the first hour, I believe, we have Reed Galen, who is president of the union, an offshoot of the Lincoln Project. Of course, he was one of the founders of the Lincoln Project, and now the union, the offshoot, focuses a little more on actual voter registration, voter turnout, and just people participating in democracy, small d democracy, democratic democracy, I guess you might say. So looking forward to have Reed. It's been a while since we had Reed on the show. We traveled around the state with him, of course, and so looking forward to have him back on the program tomorrow. Right now, though, it is 9 past 1 o'clock. Time once again for What's Worse. Let's go.
This or that, this or that. Then, of course, the choice is yours. You can get with this or you can get with that. You can get with this or you can get with that.
Time once again for What's Worse. No prize money involved, nothing to give away, just your chance to have your voice heard on statewide radio. 10 past the hour of 1 o'clock. All right, this is a good one. Get your dialing fingers ready. Also text in as well. Timely, indeed, tomorrow is Valentine's. For those individuals that have a significant other, probably a good one. Because nobody likes to kiss someone with bad breath. Good hygiene is always important, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Also can be controversial on a date are bad opinions. So, what's worse, bad breath or bad opinions? Bad breath or bad opinions? 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842.
As I mentioned earlier, they both stink. One literally, right. But also it just might be like, your opinion stinks, man.
Well, this is an important question because I say Valentine's tomorrow. I'm going to be, by the way, in the morning. I'm going to be in early for a vacationing Pat Kreitlow, who is still finishing up his well-deserved vacation down south. Greg Bach and I will be in the Up North News radio time slot from 6 until 8, and we're calling it Civic Media This Morning. Dr. Kristen Lyerly has been filling in all this week up until tomorrow, doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, I got to listen in a little bit. Very good.
Oh, she's so good. So thanks to Dr. Lyerly for helping out. So Greg and I will be on in the morning for Valentine's. And then Zommers is getting a well-deserved day off tomorrow as well. And so it will be Sam Davidson filling in tomorrow for Zommers in the producer chair. Looking forward to having Sam along with us as Zommers takes a day off. But again, with your, especially if you're celebrating with someone, important question. Bad breath or bad opinions, what's worse? 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. Dana in La Crosse, listening up there, says bad breath. Yes, anyone can have bad breath, Marge, but you could knock a buzzard off of a Norwegian. A quote apparently from George Carlin, the late, great George Carlin. So a vote for bad breath. Also, Greg listening in Genesee Depot on WAUK, bad opinions, he says are worse. So it's 1-1. Let's go to the phone line, 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. Go to Tom, listening on WRCE in Richland Center. Tom, what's worse, bad breath or bad opinions?
Well, I think it depends how close you are, because bad breath up close can really knock you out, but bad opinions can hit you from a long way away. So I think it's your distance.
I think that's true. That's absolutely true, right? Distance is important in this one. Thanks for your listenership.
Yeah, hey, Todd,
Oh, go ahead.
Can I tell you one more thing?
Sure.
There's some action out here about the campus at Richland County that you know all about.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And there's actually an interest in some people talking about trying to organize a community college out of all the folks that know how to do this to begin with, and so we could work out something. And then there's a lot of issues about how the land's going to be used and all kinds of stuff. So we got to get you back involved in the neighborhood.
All right, well, we'll come out. Always happy to promote anything we can across the state of Wisconsin, particularly in our campus community. So thanks, Tom. I appreciate the heads up. We'll talk to you soon. 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. Keeping it in the drift list on WRCE in Richland Center. Whistler calling in from Richland Center. Whistler, what's worse, bad breath or bad opinions?
Well, I'll tell you what, Todd, good afternoon. Bad breath can be corrected. Bad opinions, I don't think can be. That's what I
That's
think.
great. Another great point, Whistler. I think you're right about that. I mean, if somebody's got bad breath, give them a breath mint or whatever. But bad opinions, it's tougher to get people to change that.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
Appreciate the call, Whistler. Thank you so much. 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. What's worse, bad breath or bad opinions? Zommers, do you have a take on this?
Well, first, Tony on YouTube says much the same thing. Both? I guess bad breath is easier to fix, though.
Right. Yeah, neither one are great. But we're asking the questions, what's worse? Jeff Perry, our ongoing contributor and friend, watcher on Facebook, says, what's worse? Bad opinions. I could give a date a stick of gum to freshen their breath, but bad opinions are much more difficult to change.
Yeah, I think when I first saw this question, my answer was bad breath. And that's because my nose is awful. I can't smell for crap. And so if breath is bad enough that it bothers me, it's really bad. And so bad breath is worse. But when you put it in the context of a date, bad opinions are worse because bad breath, it's just, they probably had a bad day or we ate spaghetti with garlic or something. It happens. But bad opinions, depending on the opinions, can immediately say, yeah, it was nice to meet you. I'll definitely call you back for sure.
Right. Well said. Well said. Christine, listening in Slinger on WAUK, says bad opinions are worse. What do you think? Bad breath or bad opinions? What's worse? 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. You can also text us on the Civic Media app. I agree with Whistler to a degree there. It depends on your distance or the situation, right? If it's somebody you're dating, boy. Well, I mean, I guess if the person you're dating has a really bad take on something you just don't believe in at all, and not just like on music, but like a political or social issue take that's very different from you.
Right.
That could be pretty uncomfortable, and it's like, yeah, I'm not going to be hanging out with this person anymore. Bad breath, is just more of a turn off. Like if you're with someone and they have bad breath, like what do you, especially if it's like a newer dating relationship, you don't want to embarrass them.
Right.
Also,
or it might be a chronic health condition.
Right. So like, how do you bring that up? Right. I don't know. I think I'm going to fall. Who was it? The last person that called there? Because bad breath can, unless it's a chronic condition, more or less could be. Sometimes you go out and eat garlic or something like that, and it's like, oh, geez, I got to brush my teeth or give a breath mint, and everything is fine. So I think by and large, bad breath is easier to fix. So I will go with bad opinions.
I think I will as well.
All right. So there you go. What do you think? A couple more minutes left for you to call in. 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. What's worse, bad breath or bad opinions? Lots of people not dreading, but like if you have a newer date, right? You're thinking, I hope I don't run into either one of these tomorrow. I mean, but then, I think a lot of people also are like, if you are in a particular, I should say, whether or not you're a committed like marriage relationship or you're dating, sometimes the pressure of Valentine's is just too much. Like, just better to stay in and chill and enjoy each other's company.
I've never been a huge into that kind of thing, like big, overly romantic gestures. Maybe that's why I'm single.
Well, you and me both, Summers. You and me both. Well, there you go. I'm going to declare that bad opinions are worse today. There you go. Bad opinions.
That's gotten the most texts.
That has gotten the most texts. All right. Very good. Thanks, everybody who played. Come on back. We'll continue on a Thursday on February 13th, Valentine's Day Eve, right here on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Great conversation. 92.7 WMDX.
Is your computer so slow you can hardly use it? Does it have blue screens?
It depends on the
malware,
opinion. If it's
viruses,
like,
reboots,
I think the
hardware
Twilight
crashes?
series is the greatest series ever written, you're wrong, but that's not going to hurt anybody. If your opinion is, I don't think,
Madison Computer Works.
if you're tweeting what Kanye or Ye is tweeting, that's a whole other thing.
For solutions to your computer problems, call the
Yeah,
pros at
100%.
231-8000, and we'll turn this.
Terry Barr says, the bad opinioner always thinks it's a good opinion. That is true.
No more mold, no more damage, no more slipping and hurting. Make your ordinary bathroom extraordinary for only $99 per month. New shower, new door, new tub, new wall, new anti-slip technology. BCI Bath and Shower is made in America for the highest quality. First 50 callers save $1,500 on a Never-Clear glass treated door. BCI Bath and Shower. Interest-free financing options. 800-329-4115. 800-329-4115. 800-329-4115.
I'm Dan Schaefer. Let's recombobulate. Believe it or not, it is once again time for Wisconsinites to head to the polls and vote. I know we all have a bit of election fatigue after 2024, but the spring election primary is coming up on Tuesday, February 18th. One race that will be on every ballot statewide for the spring primary is for state superintendent. Incumbent Jill Underly is seeking another term, and two candidates are challenging her. Jeff Wright, superintendent for Sauk Prairie Schools, and Brittany Kinzer, an education consultant and former charter school executive. Kinzer's candidacy, in particular, is gaining steam. Her campaign reported raising more than $500,000, far more than what Underly or Wright have brought.
Pursuing truth wherever it may lead and having fun doing it. Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. Glad to have you along. 21 now past the hour, 1 o'clock on Thursday, February 13th. Couple of trickling opinions on the what's worse for today. Want to make sure we get those out there. We try to kind of wrap it up a little bit, but always good to get your opinions in. We asked what's worse, bad opinions or bad breath. Len in Madison on WMDX says bad opinions are worse, more difficult to remedy, and seems to affect more senses and sensibility. Agree with that. Ben, listening in on WRCE in Richland Center, says bad breath I can live with, but bad opinions can lead to dangerous situations. I think that's a consensus, right? A big winner for bad opinions today, which is worse. Terry Barr, our one and only Terry Barr, by the way. She is a multifaceted individual. She is the the co-host of Max Sync Radio on the weekends here on Saturday. She does all kinds of slice of Wisconsin. She's on Pete Schwab's show. She's everywhere. And of course, we're proud to have her as our announcer and ongoing contributor. Terry Barr says, but the bad opinioner always thinks it's a good opinion.
That is true.
She's so right about that.
That's the hardest part.
She's so right about that.
Speaking of Max Sync Radio.
Yes.
For those of you in the know, Rocker recently had an issue that took him out of the show for a while.
A little health
this
issue.
weekend, he's
more
back.
than a little, but yes. He's
back this weekend.
I heard that he's going to make an appearance in the show. So that's, I'm assuming that's public knowledge now that you said that.
It is.
All right, good. No, I'm very excited. And Rocker's gone through some stuff. We'll just say that. We'll let him tell his own story. He's talked about it, though, on Facebook and publicly. And he's going to make an appearance back on Max Inc. Radio, Talk Todd. And we're very, very excited, very happy for him, and looking forward to it. Terry says, happy Gentletine's Day. Or Galentine's Day. Oh, I like that. Galentine's Day today? Is that a thing, Terry?
I feel like it is. I think it's just for, all the single people, usually women.
Oh, really?
And yes, Terry confirms Rocker will be on at 7:30 on Saturday.
Oh, that's great, Terry. Thank you so much for letting us know that. So Rocker's on at 7:30. Set your alarms. Make sure you tune in. I'm sure it'll be a little emotional, but also a whole lot of happiness to have Rocker back on these airwaves this weekend at 7:30. So make sure you tune in all across the Civic Media Radio Network for that.
And yes, Galentine's Day is according to Wikipedia, a global holiday that celebrates women's friendship.
Oh, well, now see, that's fantastic. I mean, great to celebrate friendship.
It originated in Parks and Rec, the show.
Did it really?
Yeah.
So they have a Galentine's Day, but not a Dudentine's Day.
I don't know what you would call it, but yeah.
All right, very good.
Oh, there's Palentine's Day. That's what it is.
Oh, what is Palentine's Day?
Also today.
Well,
and it's the same thing, but it's a gender-neutral version of Galentine's Day.
Happy Palentine's Day, happy Galentine's Day to all who celebrate. That's great. That's great. Well, that's the best thing Eve Galanter was pretty spectacular at hour one, but Terry Barr telling us that Rocker will be back on Max Inc. at 7:30 on Saturday. That's fantastic news.
Also spectacular.
Always also spectacular. What is not spectacular, and you wonder why, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday with Trigby, that the Trump White House has both in the White House and in the Pentagon so far, other agencies are looking at this. There are national reporters assigned each of these venues. So you have a venue like the State Department or Department of Defense, and you have national public radio, CBS, NBC, ABC. You have all these national media that have a desk there. Well, the Trump folks have gotten catty here. And they have thrown out National Public Radio. There's also a story that the Associated Press not being allowed into the Oval Office for meetings. And instead, the White House is putting in places like Breitbart, OWN, Newsmax, very blatantly to the right. And you wonder why that is. Well, here's an example, perhaps, why the White House is so salty with actual journalistic institutions like National Public Radio. Headline this morning: Trump administration set to purchase $400 million worth of armored Teslas. That's according to a public State Department procurement document that comes as ethics experts raise conflict of interest questions about the chief executive of Tesla. Guess who? Elon Musk, who is also a top White House official, although never confirmed, never vetted, just there. The Trump
conflicts of interest,
right?
How could that be?
Crazy. The Trump administration is expected to purchase $400 million worth of armored Tesla vehicles, according to the new State Department document procurement details for fiscal year 2025. Tesla chief executive Elon Musk is a top White House official who has been leading the so-called made-up Department of Government Efficiency. I editorialized that, by the way. That was not in the NPR story. It's a unit focused, of course, on shrinking the federal workforce and ferreting out corruption, according to the White House. The document does not specify what Tesla vehicles will be purchased by U.S. officials, but Musk's Cybertruck, with its militaristic design and a stainless steel exterior, could be an option. Now, get this. After the reports were circulated last night, the State Department's intent the State Department's intent to purchase Tesla vehicles, the document was edited at 9:12 p.m. Eastern Time last night, and now says the federal contract is for $400 million worth of, quote, armored electric vehicles, unquote. But the word Tesla was removed. Responding to a segment by MSNBC's Rachel Maddow about the $400 million contract, Musk wrote on X last night, quote, "Hey, App Maddow, why the lie? Question mark, unquote. The State Department and Musk did not return calls for requests for comment. Imagine that. Musk, who spent most of his almost a $250 million to help elect Trump, has used his X account devoted to Doge, or as I like to call it, Doggy, to highlight what his views are as excessive and unnecessary federal contracts. stepping away from the story now from NPR. And when people expose the truth, the people in power try to take you down. That is why Trump is kicking out these legacy news media like NPR. Come back and talk about this and more. Don't go anywhere. News updates for your local community are next. It's the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Every time I think the opportunism couldn't be more naked.
WMDX.
All right.
Your news, conversations, and a whole lot of fun. It's all on your local Civic Media radio station or the Civic Media app.
For 92.7 WMDX News, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. Governor Tony Evers has been touring the state visiting Head Start childcare providers. Head Start has been impacted by the Trump administration's proposed cuts. As we reported earlier this week, at least 6 of them don't have access to the funding programs that they need. Melissa Kay reports.
These visits highlight the Year of the Kid and the Evers administration's efforts to keep costs down for working families. Evers said Wisconsin's economy is strong because so many parents are able to stay in the workforce. Head Start programs are possible in part because of federal funds.
If Congress decides not to do Head Start, there's nothing we could do to kind of correct that mistake. That's a 60-year-old federal program. I just don't think the state could do any more than what I'm hoping they're going to do in this next legislative session.
The 2025-27 executive budget will include ongoing funding to make the Child Care Counts program permanent. This includes investing over $500 million aimed at lowering child care costs, supporting this critical industry, and investing in employer-sponsored child care. The lack of federal funding would have disastrous consequences for states and critical programs that support kids, families, and communities in Wisconsin.
It would be an unbelievable shame if the president decides, we're done with this, moms and dads can take care of it. That would be horrible.
Governor Evers said Democratic legislators are in favor of funding childcare, and he's hoping they can work in a bipartisan manner like they did with shared revenue and the Brewers Stadium.
We worked in a bipartisan way. Hopefully child care accounts will be one of those this time.
Without being able to access funds, one Head Start operation in Waukesha closed. Others had to take out loans just to make payroll. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. You're listening to 92.7
On your entertainment beat,
WMDX News.
I'm Pete Schwaba. Super Bowl 59 set a record in ad sale revenues. According to Variety, Fox Corporation pulled in more than $800 million between all the Super Bowl viewing platforms. The asking price for ads was $7 million for 30 seconds, and that went up to $8 million as the game got closer. Fox reports that this is about $150 million more than 2023, the last time they covered the Super Bowl. The game was also the most watched and streamed Super Bowl ever, with over 14 million viewers watching the game on Tubi. Thank goodness Netflix had nothing to do with this broadcast. Presenters for this year's Oscar broadcast have been announced. In addition to last year's winners, Cillian Murphy, Robert Downey Jr., Emma Stone, and Da'Vine Joy Randolph, 2025 presenters will also include Halle Berry, Penelope Cruz, Scarlett Johansson, Elle Fanning, John Lithgow, and Amy Poehler. This year's ceremony will be hosted by Conan O'Brien and takes place March 2nd. For more showbiz fun, tune into Nightlight with me, Pete.
Can we come back with I Want to Know What Love Is?
Sounds good.
All right, thanks.
Then, a Valentine's Day snowstorm starts in the afternoon. I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot. Currently, it's 15 degrees.
I came home early and found my husband swiping left. It's true. He was looking for something new. So I just decided to confront him.
I'm looking at movetomadison.com.
Well, at least you're keeping it local.
It's the Aaron Weber Group. You said you wanted a home. They can get us the best place with updated market reports and instant property value quotes, virtual or in-person meetings. Happy Valentine's Day?
The Aaron Weber Group, powered by Compass. Move to Madison.com. Swipe and find your true love home today.
Blind Shot Social Club, a perfect blend of cool, casual dining, indoor golf with space for events, craft cocktails, and non-alcoholic drinks too. A hidden gem on Madison's
What is a violation
East
of
Side.
the First
Blind
Amendment?
Shot Social Club, open to everyone.
I think Steve's probably saying that kicking out the news organizations out of the
Oh, yeah.
out of
Yep.
their
Yep.
offices.
Freedom of press.
Yep.
Yeah. We just talked about that.
Yeah.
20 seconds.
I wanna know what love is. I want you to show me. I wanna feel what love is. I know you can show me.
Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. 34 now past the hour, 1 o'clock on Valentine's Day Eve. Galentines and Palentines today. We learned from our fabulous colleague, Terry Barr. We appreciate that. 35 minutes past the hour of 1 o'clock. Now, this is fantastic. This is exactly what we need to. Well, by the way, Forder, let me see. I did okay on my civics quiz earlier today. Boy, Forder, I want to know what love is. I'm going to say that was released. Jeff Perry's going to yell at the radio when I get this wrong. I'm going to say that was released. I want to know what love is. 1985.
1 year off.
Ah,
84.
84. All right. Missed it by that much, as Maxwell Smart used to say. 1980. That's a great song, by the way. The reason we played it is something new is going on in the world of love. How about that? It's at the intersection of the loneliness epidemic and artificial intelligence. Now we've had Kira. We got to get Kira Sabin back on the show, our life coach. She's talked about this a lot, that there is a true loneliness epidemic. The people, even though they might have a group of friends or they're around people at work, the people just have this deep, really serious sense of being alone. A lot of males especially say they don't have close friends anymore, or maybe one or two. They don't have a group of friends they hang out with. And this is a real thing. And now add on to it artificial intelligence, better known as AI. Teenagers also are turning to artificial intelligence for companionship. In fact, teenagers are falling in love, get this, with their AI chatbot.
Yeah,
Have you heard of this?
But I'm not surprised, but I'm very disappointed. I've seen it happen. I'm not saying personally. I've seen people talk about it online when AI chatbots were very unsophisticated. Now that they're this, real,
basically
this is
thinking.
dangerous.
Yeah.
This is dangerous. Well, they not thinking, knowing exactly what to say to prey on people who are weak to this kind of, manipulation.
That's so well said, Zommers. Because, yeah, you nailed it. Because artificial intelligence, it remembers, Todd's term, remembers all your interactions, what you look at, what you are susceptible to, and then it basically will adjust to you. You're right.
And what other people like you have said and done.
Right. Well said. Again, scary, but well explained. So, teenagers falling in love with their AI chatbot. Experts like Anna Mae Duane of the University of Connecticut predicted the number of such relationships will soon explode. The trend is likely to redefine what love is, which is something that's happened before. Professor Duane points out that about 300 years ago, when popular romantic novels invented the notion that marriage should happen because people find a soulmate and fall in love. Now, that's interesting. Because, I think that's kind of like what the quote-unquote normal thing is, right?
At this point, yeah, not an economic stability
Right.
and procreation.
You'll find your soulmate and fall in love. That's just the normal thing. So apparently this is from 300 years ago, from romantic novels. Novels also taught that to find true love, one must overcome challenges like rejection. Well, I checked that one off. Misunderstandings. Check that one off. Separations. Not so much. And objections from friends and family. Not so much on that one. All right. But AI companion chats apps, try that again, Todd. But AI companion chat apps tell a new love story. It's a seductive tale about companions that are easy, also comforting, supportive, and of course, available 24/7. Never impatient, never judgmental. An AI partner is unconditional, always on your side, always ready to listen and talk. An AI partner is a sycophant, and always treats you as important and always agrees. The new vision of love promises perfect compatibility and unwavering support. Professor Dwayne points out some drawbacks to this new definition of love, though. One is that people become intolerant of conflict or rejection, which are inherent components in a relationship with another human being. Well, that's exactly right.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing with all of the instantaneous stuff with the internet, where we become more burrowed into our rabbit holes and echo chambers because anything we don't agree, instead of talking to a person in front of us and saying, well, why do you think that? We're just like, nope, click on something else.
Yeah.
And when you do that with even more aspects of our life, it can't lead anywhere good.
No. And I think part of growing as a person, not that I've had a lot of successful relationships in terms of romance in my life, but part of it, whether it's friendships or family relationships or, yes, romantic relationships, part of growing as a person is I think it forces you to look internally at yourself and say, well, okay, well, that didn't work out. What did I do wrong? I mean, if we're healthy, we do that. If we're unhealthy, we always say, well, it was the other person's fault. But if you're healthy, you're like, well, it takes two to tango. And the more, to your point, Sommers, the more that we're not experiencing those rejections or setbacks, and everything's always perfect, we don't know how to interact with people in our work lives or our school lives or our retirement community or whatever when they don't agree with us. So, all right, so picking up back in this story, will relationships with AI be so easy and comfortable that they diminish interest in and need for human relationships? I hope not. What about the corporate CEO behind the existence of your AI loved one? Will she pull the string as a business move or due to bankruptcy? The dependency on AI companions can become intense. One teenager declared the love they feel for their AI companion, quote, keeps them alive, unquote. That's really honestly what scares the crap out of me. That people are so into a computer thing like that they feel that they truly believe psychologically that they have this relationship that keeps them alive.
Having that
scary.
with another person is already unhealthy.
Yeah.
Having that with a computer is downright dangerous because
100%.
presumably a person you know in person at least somewhat has your best interests at heart. But it's possible to spot signs of abuse from a person. When it's code, it's a lot easier to be manipulated.
Yeah, well said. If you'd like to weigh in on this story here about new AI love companions, artificial intelligence love companions, give us a call. 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. We'd love to hear from you about this. Corporations have never been shy about profiting off of human addictions. Will corporations extort even ever higher maintenance fees to keep an AI companion alive? It's a new take on the old line, until death do us part. Professor Dwayne thinks that the way to steer young people away from AI's market-driven version of love is to expose them to literature, philosophy, and history that provides insights into the human experience. Well, we talk about this casually before. The more we get out and around other humans, the more we learn about others, about ourselves, the healthier it is for us physically and mentally. Humanities classes cultivate social skills and teach the vocabulary needed to imagine real human-to-human connection in many forms. From tragic passion in Romeo and Juliet to cautionary tales like the Worthington Heights. Young
Or
people.
Wuthering Heights.
Oh, Wuthering. Pardon me. I gotta get.
It's
I
weird.
gotta get the new glasses. Wuthering Heights. Thank you, Summers. People need to develop their concepts of love. The real-time debate on AI predicts it will bring us a future ranging from happiness to horror. The answer depends on what we choose to value and what we choose to reject. As the AI companion marketplace grows, the questions apply to all of us. Will we buy the easy and seductive path of an AI relationship? Will we seek AI tools that enhance our knowledge and understanding of the richness of human-to-human relationships? Just how much are we willing to invest emotionally in the messy, challenging, and profoundly human art of love? 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. How much are we willing to invest emotionally in the messy, challenging, and profoundly human art of love? Could also text us on the Civic Media app. I had not heard of this until I got this story.
I had heard of it, like I said,
Had
years
you?
ago, but then I didn't think about it since then. And now I am sad.
Well, I guess I didn't mean to bring everybody down, but I just, again, I think we get so wrapped up in the news, kind of the big headlines of the day, and yes, many of them are important, but then we don't pay attention to things that are happening that don't get all the high press or the media coverage. But in particular, our young people, but it's not just young people, by the way. I mean, think about it. People of my generation, Gen X, I think we are now the number one users of Facebook.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
You know, so people in their late 40s into late 50s. And there's all kinds of scams on there, right? All kinds of things reaching out to us to click on. And with artificial intelligence, as you said, Sommers, it collects information on us. And then we think, well, we'll invest in this quote-unquote relationship. A computer electronic device is just simply no replicate. It doesn't replicate. It's no substitute. That's the word I was looking for. It's no substitute for any human relationship, at least in my humble opinion.
I completely agree. I can totally see how it could be enticing, though. I mean, the biggest problem that I and many others run into when trying to do online dating is that if you get a match with somebody, they kind of just stop replying.
Oh,
You know,
yeah, ghosting.
Ghosting. It happens so quick.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, wow, found somebody who seems interesting. We're into a lot of the same stuff. They seem interested. I seem interested. And they just stop responding. And with
Right.
this, that's never a problem.
Right, because yeah, the computer will keep it'll keep responding to you. I mean, various dating apps all across the board, and you have, they call them bots for a robot, and some of these are I am assuming AI, where they'll generate things and you think you're talking to a real person, and sometimes it's somebody in a foreign country trying to get you, hey, before I go any further, could you help me out with whatever? And they ask you for a credit card, they ask you for a personal cell phone number, and you've talked to this person for 10 minutes.
Or it'll be, hey, we've planned a date. Before we go on the date, let's talk on Snapchat.
Yes.
Hey, we're on Snapchat.
Right.
Before we go, will you join my OnlyFans?
Right.
It's like blocked.
Yep. And it's just, but the original, 10, 15 minutes of back and forth online conversation, it now
seems real.
Very, very real. And it lures people in. So be careful out there as we're navigating the hills, the valleys, the rivers of love out there. I think it goes beyond love. It's to companionship. As Kira Saban has told us on this show that, and I think oftentimes we think, oh, this is just a female thing. No. No, this is a male thing as well.
This is a human thing.
Human. That's well said. Because it's not always about romance or physical pleasure. It's about mental stimulation, about companionship, and fighting this overarching feeling that we're alone. We look at the news headlines and we think, what can we do about this? And we think we're alone. We're not alone. We have each other. Friends, neighbors, families. I know I keep saying this. Touch some grass, get out, touch some snow. Take a walk, go, sit in a coffee shop. Talk to someone. Of course, the number to call is
988.
Thank you. 988 if you really need some help. Come on back. We'll wrap things up on the Civic Media Radio Network after this.
92.7
Thank you. I blanked on
WMDX.
that for a second.
Attention. If you suffer from consistent pain in your joints caused by arthritis, overuse, or injury, you may be a candidate for a revolutionary therapy that could revitalize damaged tissue. This approach can provide long-lasting relief from pain in your knees, shoulders, hips, and other joints with no surgery, no drugs, and no downtime. To find out if you're a viable candidate, you may request a free consultation from QC Kinetics by calling 608-384-0897. Instead of masking the symptoms, it goes to the root of the problem to resolve it at its source. Already used by thousands of satisfied patients nationwide, this joint pain therapy is available right now to the public, but only for qualified candidates. Again, to find out if you're a viable candidate for this therapy, you may request a free consultation by calling QC Kinetics at 608-384-0897. That's 608-384-0897.
At Chance Design Build, we provide remodeling done well with love. Our commitments extend beyond our workplace and your home to support our community. We judge people by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin, and we believe all humans deserve quality, publicly funded education, childcare, and health care. But what do you believe in? At Chance Design Build, we believe every person must have the opportunity to thrive. If you're thinking about remodeling your home, go to chancedesignbuild.com to learn more about our commitments to you, your home, and our community.
Tons of glass artists share the same passion for eye-catching art as Ignite Glass and Gifts, so we're showcasing their work.
Kurt has a very good
alongside our
suggestion
talented
about finding
local
human
artists
connection
and
if you're
our
feeling
in-house
lonely.
Yeah,
Ignite
absolutely.
artists.
Let's go
The
for it.
latest techniques, the hottest colors, and mind-blowing designs are here for you to enjoy. Madison's favorite for glass, gifts, and
I was looking for love in all the wrong places, looking for love in too many faces, searching their eyes, looking for traces of what I'm dreaming of, hoping to find a friend and a lover. I'll bless the day I discover another heart looking for love.
Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. Well done, Zommers on the board, as always, at 8 minutes before the hour of 2 o'clock. At the top of the hour, news, weather, and sports, followed by the Maggie Dawn Show every afternoon from 2 until 4. Maggie Dawn coming up right after us. Great song. For the last, we had this great article here. We talked about that now artificial intelligence are becoming companions online, and people, particularly young people, although there are others, are falling, quote unquote, in love. I shouldn't say quote unquote, because to them it is love, in their mind at least, with artificial intelligence companion. That is an example of looking for love in all the wrong places.
Most definitely.
So be careful where you go looking for love on this Valentine's. Speaking of this article here, we've got Kurt on the line from WMDX in Madison, listening here on the home station. Kurt, thanks for calling in. What do you think about this article? What do you think about the human connections and artificial intelligence now is mucking up the waters as well?
It literally scares the bejeebus out of me. I had mentioned with my previous dog, she was a therapy dog for people in nursing homes and care centers and stuff like this. These young kids just simply have it's not of my generation time nor your, Todd, and I got you by at least 6 or 7, 8 years.
All right.
But anyway, there are plenty of elderly in neighborhoods, nursing homes, care centers. These kids need to get back to the roots with someone that can give them perspective, give them a sense of time that they can't possibly even wrap their heads around, because these people didn't have cell phones. And it was a different world, a different time. And this is one of the biggest problems with our culture, is our failing to stay in touch and listen to elders. It's a disease, and it needs to be dealt with.
Kurt, this is so fantastic what you just brought up. Well, I mean, obviously the problem isn't, but the solution, what you're talking about, is there are so many folks now, as the baby boomer generation starts to get older, and for various reasons may have to go into an assisted living facility or a nursing home. There's so many, and many of our seniors in those homes are also lonely, because maybe they don't have family, maybe their family lives a long way away, whatever the case may be. And I've seen this before in small incidences where there's like a Boy Scout or a Girl Scout program or a church youth group, and they go and they pair up with these senior citizen folks, and they learn from each other through human interaction. That's so great.
Yeah, I really wish them the best. They need to walk away from their phones. They need to reach out to old people like me. And then,
come on now, Kurt. You're not that old, because I'm almost there.
I'll scare them into a new existence.
No, I think it's just really, really great how you brought that together, because we have so many people like that who are just really, truly searching for. It's not just about love, right? It's about relationships.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. I really, really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day, Kurt. Thanks for your listenership. We appreciate it as always.
Tyler in Wisconsin Rapid texts in, "Open up the pod bay door, Hal," referencing 2001: A Space Odyssey, in which an AI takes over the spaceship and is like, "I'm afraid I can't let you do that, Dave. Be careful." It's the whole AI singularity thing, where it gets too smart and decides it doesn't need us.
Oh, yeah, well, that could always happen as well, right? What do you think about these AI relationships? These computer, not even computer. I guess they're computer in terms of, it's not. These are beyond finding somebody online. These are non-human. I guess what you could say, programmed relationships.
Yep.
I don't know how to say it.
They look at they're large language models. They look at huge amounts of data, from books to online chats to all kinds of stuff, and say, when people say this, what is the most common response? And then they copy it.
Yeah, very, very well said. But Kurt's got a solution, part of the larger solution, which is pairing up people, younger folks that might not have heard some of the stories, the history of their community, of the country, of the state, and older folks who have all that experience, and they love to tell stories, but they don't have anybody around them maybe who wants to sit and listen to those. And I've seen it myself when I had a grandmother in a assisted living facility for a while, and they would have young people come in occasionally, and she loved it. Of course, she was an educator and a teacher, and she would ask them, "So what are you learning now in school? So tell me about how you do it now. So how do you do your homework on a computer?" And both sides got something out of that, and there was a relationship built and a humanness that benefits everybody.
Absolutely. That's something that those of us who lose grandparents and eventually parents and everything, something you miss the most, at least something I miss the most about grandparents I've lost, is just being able to sit there and listen.
Totally agree, Zommers. That was one of my favorite things as my grandparents' age, is just to listen to their stories. And I didn't care whether I'd heard it a dozen times before over 50 years. Like, I just wanted to hear it again in their vernacular, in their voice.
Yeah, I know sometimes my grandpa was like, "You kids seem bored. You're not really talking much." And I didn't know how to express it then, but it was, "No, I'm not bored at all. I just like to listen."
Yeah. Well, Kurt, that was a great call. Really, really great call. Appreciate that. Everybody get out there, talk to a human, make a friend, as Kenny Chesney says, can't we all just get along? Stay tuned. Maggie Dawn is next. Many thanks to Eve Galanter coming on today. Again, you can find out more information about the Wisconsin Civics Games at Wisconsin Civics, plural, games.com. You can register. A deadline for that is coming up on March 1st. Also, thanks to Mr. Zommers, all you for listening. Stay tuned. Maggie Dawn is next. Whatever you're fighting for, whatever you believe in, do not give up. Keep banging your drum. See you tomorrow.
Well, thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you. We'll see you tomorrow. Adios. Bye-bye. Are you doing Maggie today or?